today is. 4/18/17. So the stems have nodes. Nodes are like joints in the stems. And in Polygoniaceae, they're actually swollen, typically. So you're going along the stem, and then, oh, there's a joint. Whoop, there's a joint. And so it's called the many-kneed family. That is a characteristic of the family. Mostly they're herbaceous. Around here, all the examples that I know of are herbaceous. They're not woody stemmed. They're not shrubs. Leaves are generally alternate in the ones that we have here. There are some exceptions, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. This is a big thing, though. This is characteristic of the family, and I know we have said, you know, the family is classified based on the reproductive structures. That is true. But families tend to also show other characteristics because they have common ancestry. I see your gum, spit it out. So the leaf base at each node tends to expand around that node. And it forms this sort of protective coating. It's not really protecting it from anything, but it's just a remnant of the leaf base. And that's called a sheath. So Gesundheit. So we call this stipule sheathing. And all the members that we'll see around here show stipule sheathing. So it's an easy, quick family ID. If you look at a plant and it's got stipule sheathing, with a few exceptions, it's probably a buckwheat family member. So the flowers, bisexual, actinomorphic, meaning regular, usually tiny. Like so tiny you can't tell the parts apart, and you can't count how many parts there are. Note that, and I've been using my good old, Smith vascular plant families. They don't even mention how many parts there are or the multiples, though I think they're normally 5-parted, but you can't usually tell. I do have, this is a picture of actual buckwheat. And you can grow buckwheat around here. It's an awesome crop if you have chickens. Chickens love young buckwheat stems. And if you scatter buckwheat seeds in a patch of ground that's at least a little bit receptive to growing stuff, you'll have buckwheat for years. It starts off as a planted thing, ends up as a weed. It's pretty. It's a nice pollen source. Bees do like buckwheat for making honey with. It's a darker honey. Really, the only family members of economic importance here are buckwheat itself, which is ground into flour or used as an animal feed. In some parts of the world, it's eaten as a primary grain. And rhubarb. Anybody got a rhubarb patch at home? Okay. Rhubarb is a member of the buckwheat family. Of course, rhubarb has poisonous stems. You know that, right? The leaves, or not stems, good Lord. Stems are edible. The leaves are poisonous. I don't know if this is true or not. I've always heard the story repeated that during World War II, there was an English cookbook author who wrote a book exhorting her fellow British housewives to be more frugal and not waste food, because every bite wasted was like a bomb for Hitler. You were going to help Hitler win the war if you were wasting food here in Britain. And so she encouraged her fellow housewives to cook the leaves. Do not throw the leaves of the rhubarb away. And they always said the Germans should have given her a medal. I don't know if it's a true story or if it's apocryphal, but it makes a great story. Now, in terms of wild members of Polygoniaceae, we have a bunch of them, and we should be able to find a couple today. I don't know if they'll be blooming or not yet, but I know we've got a bunch of them out there. Dock. This stuff is dock, and that's curly dock. There's curly dock, there's yellow dock, there are a whole bunch. The genus is Rumex, and there are, I don't know how many species, but we've probably got 10 or 15 locally. They're slightly challenging to tell apart. The differences are fairly subtle, but you can do it. The tear thumbs and the sheep sorrel, and then knotweeds. Knotweed. Now, we've got native knotweeds. We have little tiny pink knotweeds and things, but we also have big bad Japanese knotweed, which is a really invasive, aggressive plant. It's Japanese. These are the blossoms of a Japanese knotweed. They also, just like buckwheat pollen, make great honey. There's a guy near me who sells what he calls red bamboo honey. It's Japanese knotweed honey. And it's delicious. And it's got a very dark red color. I should bring some in. We've got a jar at home. But Japanese knotweed is a non-native invasive. It does take over stream banks especially, but also ditches and just hillsides. It'll grow just about anywhere. The good part about it is it's edible. You can do your part to wipe out Japanese knotweed by eating it. And if you get the really, really young shoots, you can cook it like asparagus, though I've done it. I will say it's tougher. If you let it go a little bit longer, they say you should treat it like rhubarb, which I did, and it was really awful. Like, seriously terrible. Like, it won't kill you, but if you were starving, you'd eat it, but it's awful. I made pie. It's terrible. So, anyway. So, today, let's go out, and we should be able to find, I think we can find 3 families today, yeah.
I just have a question. What's the SPP stand for?
Oh, species. Rumex species. When you see SPP, that means, you know, we're talking about multiple species. I don't know why they always say SPP, not SPS, but SPP is sort of the generic botanical slang for species. So if you've got multiple related species within a genus, you'll put the genus and then SPP.
I thought that's what it was, but I did not understand the second P because there's only one.
I don't know. I've seen it for so long, like I don't even question it anymore. I've been seeing it for 25 years, so yeah, that means species. Okay, other questions? You got a Newcombs? Let's go.